good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to welcome film and TV producer, Hollywood film and TV actor Kriek. So welcome, Greg.
Thanks so much, Karen, and thanks so much for what you guys are doing at Talent Finders. It's awesome. I think we need a lot more inspiration and real talk in the world, and that's what you guys are doing. So thank you.
Thanks so much. So firstly, I want to congratulate you on all your achievements. So can you share with us how your acting career started and how it expanded into producing?
Sure thing. Listen, I think for all of us, it's so interesting when you hear people's journeys of, how they kind of land in the biz. Fascinating. I love it. It's like my favorite thing to do when I'm on set. This side is finding out how people got into it. So for me, the long and short of it is, I guess the seeds were sown when I was a young kid. My grandmother had a major impact on my life. She took care of HIV/AIDS orphans throughout Africa, and she tagged me along as a little boy. And what would happen is we'd play soccer. And then when it was lunchtime and we were under the trees, my grand would nudge me and say, well, tell them a story. At first I was like, what the heck am I going to do telling these guys a story? And initially it was through an interpreter. And then, I got more comfortable speaking and all of that. And what I learned there was the power of storytelling. So as a young kid, I guess, I didn't know it would take on the form of movies and TV, but I always knew that I thought there was so much power in being able to tell stories. And how much like it connects people. It doesn't matter what race, culture, or creed. The power of storytelling is so awesome because it's in us as human beings. So I would say that those early seeds were like a big thing. But you know what? I was an interesting customer. I loved life growing up, and I loved being stimulated by things and different experiences, from sport to academics. And sadly, not sadly, I was your head boy and, all that kind of thing. But at that point, early in my life, I actually started acting relatively late. I have an honors degree in economics, and I started working for top billing as a director initially. I think my big break in front of the camera came through Presenter Search in South Africa. And, up until that point, I was always dabbling with it. But acting actually became an official decision. I think there's a day, I don't know, maybe it's an accumulation, but there is a time where you've got to decide as a performer that now I'm going to be an actor. And for me, that was when my mother was diagnosed with cancer at the time. Thankfully, she's still alive and in remission and still kicking it.
Amazing.
But it was when a doctor said, listen, your mom's got 3 months left to live. And to cut a long story short, I'd given up my job in production and in directing, and I wanted to take care of my mom, and I needed something flexible. But it's interesting how life happens, right? Like one door closes, or you decide to close the door, but it will offer you another opportunity. And what happened with me was a local producer, took me for coffee the one day, and we were kind of having a conversation. And he was literally like, this is going to sound crazy, but we can't find our leading man. And I know you're not acting, but there's something about your essence, and you don't look like the guy that we're looking for, but there's something about you. But will you humor me and come and do an improv audition? And anyways, to cut a long story short, I go to this place, I do this improv audition quickly, and in less than 24 hours, I had my first leading role in a Lionsgate movie based on a true life story. And, for me, the way that I operate is, I love helping and doing my job. So I would say that my first acting experience was kind of out of obligation, that I don't want to let these guys down. It's like they picked me, and now I'm a lead all of a sudden. But in the process of doing that, something happened to me on many levels. One, I really enjoyed it. Number two, I was really realizing, and because of the content of the film, that I wanted to tell stories that really have an impact on people. And, number three, I've kind of always been a student of life. So I love the fact that this was something that I found that really made me grow, made me care about my fellow human being, and that I could grow into, and that's literally what happened. And since that movie, on average, I've been grateful to do at least 7 to 8 projects a year since. Been very grateful. Being in South Africa at the time as well was a big thing for me, because what you saw was an influx of American, British, and German work, and I was able to act in all three. And languages and accents have always been a big thing for me, gratefully and thankfully, in my work. And that's kind of how it started. I've kind of been the guy that feels like I came through the back door. But what I did do was any and every opportunity I got, I used that as an opportunity to upskill myself. So yeah, I never actually studied acting formally. Did try and play catch up along the way by taking workshops and classes where I could when I had some downtime. But mostly I'm of the camp where you learn as you do, and life's
Yes,
never ever
that's the
perfect to
best
do
way.
anything, and you jump in. And that was with me. I had to jump in, and it was sink or swim. And that's kind of always been, the thing that's worked for me in my life, in my particular journey.
Amazing. So, having been born and raised in South Africa, when did you
Hmm.
decide to make the shift or pursue a career in Hollywood? And how
Hmm.
challenging was that transformation or transition for you?
Sure. That's a very loaded question, Karen. And I wish I could like sit back and say, you know what? And I have had, one or two trips on a jet plane to a movie set, which was awesome. But I wish I could say the red carpet was rolled out, everything was taken care of. All I had to do was get on a plane and live my best life. But that was not the case.
No.
The word I like to use is a campaign. Imagine a presidential campaign. It's a heck of a long thing.
Yes.
I'll try and give you the long and short of it. But the biggest thing is, and this is one of my mottos in life, is do the best you can with what you have wherever you are. That's all you
Yes.
can do, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that started in South Africa. And listen, I'm not joking when I say that I came from nothing. Hey, like literally had to build myself up from scratch.
Mm.
Like especially
We've
in my
all
early
been
days in
there.
Cape Town. We've been there, right? And then
Yeah.
like one shouldn't shy away from it, right? So
No.
I embrace it because that's part of the journey, like for
Mm.
all of us, for everyone, doesn't even, it's not even specific to acting, but if you can kind of make the most of that, I think you're getting ahead. But yeah, so for me, the shift to America happened where I used every opportunity, and I also had to make a conscious decision at some point because I was very, very lucky and blessed in the sense that I did start out doing a lot of South African work, Afrikaans movies, English movies,
Mm.
across the board, different genres. But there did come a day where I started thinking about my future and knowing that I know that because I was coming toe to toe with a lot of international actors shooting in Cape Town, and realized, what, there's a day where you realize that you are worthy enough to keep working at this level, and it did take me a long time initially to kind of build up a confidence. I was always like, oh my gosh, like, is this thing, like, did they pick the right guy? Like, they're gonna like find out I'm an imposter. But after a while, you start getting over your own nonsense, and it's not
Yes.
an arrogance, but it's a confidence in knowing that
Yes.
you are an asset. And I think, what's beautiful, I think South Africans go like live life in such a unique way that I really believe we've got so much to offer to the world in terms of
Yes.
just our culture and what we have. And obviously you don't always, like, for the most part, the majority of my work's in an American accent, but the
Mm.
experiences I've had, like growing up in South Africa, really served me. I understand people, I understand setback, I understand those things, and
Mm.
hopefully that comes through in the work. But for me, what was happening in a nutshell was I was always, here's my thing, I was always making the most of every opportunity, but I did have to, over a period of time, start building up my American credits. And what I did was I really started focusing on that, and started saying no at times to other work that wouldn't like kind of count in my campaign towards America. Because
Yes.
yes, it's a very practical thing. Number one, you have to qualify to get either what they call an artist visa or to get your green card, which I now have for acting. It's a heck of a thing. And I got to be honest, like I had a little kind of like recce trip to America where I came to like visit and look. And I was also, and I'm so grateful for that little punk, I like to call him, with all his bravado. I was just like, give me a shot, let's do this. But at the time, someone was very wise, and someone sat me down and says, listen, buddy, you young man, you got your whole life ahead of you. But my advice is go and kick ass in your local environment
Mm.
first,
Mm.
and like become the big fish there. And then, like rather come to America, and in my case, Hollywood, which, this is the HQ of acting and film and TV.
Yes.
I'm so grateful I did that path, in the sense that by the time I came here, I actually came with a career. I actually came with credits.
Yes.
I think it's very tough, and I see it, man. I try and help a lot of people, trying to break into the industry here. And unfortunately, people don't realize what an assault it is on your life and your senses, because it's
Yeah.
extremely
And it's
expensive,
not
like
glamorous at
it's
all.
not glamorous at all, guys. Like the thing is, the glamour part, like, and trust me, I've had my fair share of red carpets and I do enjoy it. We all like dressing up, right? We all
Mm.
like that part of it. But
Yes.
that's literally, I'm not joking, that's like less than 5% of the way of life it is to choose to be an
That's
artist.
actually the reward.
That's
That's
just a
really
little
the
reward.
reward.
Yeah, exactly. So I built my way up. I did seek advice from a lawyer. Like, that's the way, because it's such a difficult process. You need what they call an immigration lawyer. And, I'd be
Yes.
lying to you if I didn't say that literally every spare dime went into saving for paying for my visas and for building up enough savings. Because, coming from a country like South Africa, our exchange rate's not doing us any favors.
No.
So, you need to be able to create something for yourself where, you see, this is what people don't realize, because it's so expensive to be in Los Angeles or Hollywood long enough. You need to be able to take care of yourself so that by the time you get here, you are actually giving yourself a shot to act. Because what
Yes.
happens to most people is they come here, they don't realize they totally did not understand the assignment of how
Yes.
expensive a move is, and the fact that you need a long time to build relationships from scratch. Unless
Yes.
you've got like family and friends aside, good luck to you. Unfortunately, with me, I didn't have any connections in Hollywood. I had to start from scratch and just come with my credits. So money is not something that you can just kind of shy away from. You need a lot of it, and you need to
Yes.
save for it. And that was also part of my thing, is that I'm thankful now I'm in an environment where, the wages that actors earn are, of the highest in the world, and you get paid what you're worth, but your living expenses are also crazy. So
Yes.
number one, I built my credits, and any aspiring actors, you need to think long term, and you need to take each and every international opportunity or Hollywood standard opportunity in your local environment, no matter where you are in the world. Number two, make the most of what you can, like in your environment, right? Like, even if you're starting from scratch, most people don't even know where the heck to start. You start by finding anyone else who's a storyteller or a filmmaker in your neighborhood or in your city, and you band together, because that's also what I did in South Africa, right? I
Yes.
would really work hard for my, what I call my big ticket items, which were the international projects shooting in my local environment. But I didn't wait for those things to come. I was still working with my friends. I was still being creative as an artist. I was still producing my own content. And here's the thing, for me, it's an attitude thing. My attitude was, whether I'm in the beginning even not getting paid for a thing or not, I want my level of work to be the same, whether I'm getting a big paycheck or none. Like, and then my attitude would be the same. And listen, I'm only human. I can't say that was always the case, but I strive towards that, right? That no
Yes.
matter what set I'm on, whether we've got all the trimmings or none of the trimmings, just you as an artist, it's a thing within yourself. Like, who are you and what do you want to give to the world? And that paid off, Karen. I cannot tell you, like, literally, directors that I did a favor for in the beginning brought me back second, third, fourth time.
Amazing.
And at that point, I was making all the bucks back and more. So it's an attitude thing,
Yeah.
and you've really got to understand yourself. So yeah, to cut a long story short, saved up, got the credits, qualified, went for it, but it took a long time. And for me, my transition happened in the worst time in the world, which was the pandemic.
Yes.
So I landed here literally when the world shut down, like literally.
Wow.
And the worst was that, everything that I'd saved up for and worked for, and now getting this opportunity to shine, and Hollywood shut down. Obviously, naturally, like the whole world, it's like, all of us knew what that felt like. So had I not come over and done my homework and had a nest egg and whatever, that would have been a different story today. I don't know, where I would have been, or if I would have tapped out and gone back home, But,
Yes.
I won't carry on with this all too long, but I just want to say, for those who are pursuing the idea of moving to LA and Hollywood, you've really, really got to ask yourself the tough questions, right? Like, you've really got to ask yourself, because we're in a time now where you can work anywhere in the world, and you've really got to ask yourself, like, why Hollywood specifically for you? Because it's not for everybody. I'm going to tell you that, like, it's not that romantic when you're away from your family and friends. And in my case, I'd lost a lot of people during the pandemic, and there was nothing more heartbreaking than the fact that I couldn't go back for their funerals or couldn't do anything. I was here alone in the city, and that's when the rubber hits the road. So ask yourself those deep questions before even attempting this campaign of coming, right? It's like, why Hollywood specifically? And if you can answer that correctly, then by all means go for it. But I would say work your way up with what you have, the opportunities around you, and to keep pushing. That's my approach, is always like, I keep punching out of my weight division, and in the process getting better at what I do.
Yeah, that's amazing. So as a South African moving into Hollywood, which is obviously highly competitive, as you've touched on, which very few succeed. So can you share with us more about that process And did you find an agent in the US, and did the work you do from South Africa help you? Which I know you've touched on that already.
Sure,
So
sure, sure, sure. Yeah, we'll just
maybe it's just
continue.
elaborate on the
Mm-hmm.
whole agency thing, because I think that's another thing that
Mm-hmm.
people don't understand, the way
Oh,
agents work in South
hardcore.
Africa versus UK
Mm-hmm.
versus America. It is different. Like the processes
That's
are
very
different.
different. Big time, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of things in that question. Yeah, it is. When you get to LA, you are now, it's the Olympic Games, to be blunt. It's the Olympic Games.
Yes.
The best in the world have left their homes and their lives and their families and their girlfriends and boyfriends to pursue a life in Hollywood. It is hardcore. And it's not, sadly, if it were only about your talent, it would be a different story, right? If it was
Yeah, of
just about
course.
hard work and talent, it would be a different story. But we all know, like with acting, what you really need to realize is, number one, you really have to have a desire for it. And I'm talking about the craft of acting, man. So it's a combination of a few things. You really do need to have like luck and favor on your side in terms of timing and opportunity. You have, by the time you get that small little toe in the door, you have got to deliver, my friend. And to be
Yes.
able to deliver, you've got to constantly be in a lifestyle of preparation. That it's like surfing for me, actually. I don't know how many of you surf, but I'm sure you guys know enough about surfing. But for me, it's very much like surfing in the sense that you wait for the right waves to hit. You've got to have a sixth sense for being able to ascertain when the opportunities come. By the time that wave comes, you've got to position yourself in the right spot to be able to take that wave, and to be able to stand and not kill yourself on that wave is the years and years of practice and experience, and also a balancing act of relaxation. So for me, Karen, the biggest thing is, how have I sustained it, and how have I now established myself as a working actor in Hollywood? The first thing is, this is a big thing for all of us, no matter what we do, is I believe you are not what you do. What we do is just an outflow. So who you are and what you want in life, I think, is way more important than just what you do. And sadly, I think those lines get blurred. So for me, I spend a lot of time and energy and effort now. I can't say that I started this way, Karen. It took a lot of like grief and setbacks in my life to really figure out who I am and what I want. And once you can
Yes.
settle that in yourself, I think everything else becomes easier. Because here's the thing, guys, whether you like it or not, like a lot of us are actually just seeking affirmation and worth as a human being from an
Yes.
external thing. And it can play out in many different ways. And I know that the story for many actors, that, statistically, a lot of actors do come from broken homes and were raised in single parent families, et cetera, et cetera. And the big elephant in the room is always like, a lot of us kind of have used acting as therapy. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but when you can separate the fact that if you can live from a place of love instead of fear or brokenness, in the sense that you wanting to be, what is your motivation to be an actor? Do you really want to tell stories? Do you really like the craft of acting? Or do you like the idea of acting? Do you like what it looks
It's
like?
all romantic and romanticized.
Right?
It's like
We just
marriage,
used to.
people have an
Exactly.
idea that, the wedding and all of that, but when, the gifts stop coming and the door closes, that's life. It's
Yeah,
like, well, is it really
exactly.
what everything that it's cracked up to be? Probably not. So,
Exactly that, Karen. Like, that's exactly the thing. People have this idea of what it is. They think you're just jawling and what like, and trust me, the highs are high. They're fantastic. I love them.
yeah.
And you
Yes.
get to cherish them more, because for the other 98% of the time, you're working your backside off. Like, there's
Yeah.
just no way around it. Like, I don't care how talented you are or like what lucky break you get, to have a sustainable career, not just a job, not just a once off one hit wonder, to sustainably work in the craft of acting is a heck of a campaign. So for me, my thing is who I am and my identity as a human being. I've got to take care of Greg, the human being, first before
Yes.
I take care of Greg, the actor.
Yes.
And here's the kicker, and this is something I still struggle with and got to keep coming back to. But for all of us, right, this is such a challenge that I think the pandemic's taught many of us, is, can you derive your sense of joy and happiness from within instead of
Yes.
from the
From
outside? In other
external, yeah.
words, exactly, that's a big thing. Like, can you go through the process of learning to choose to be happy and to choose joy despite the setbacks on the outside. And one of the great books for that, and I don't want to like philosophize or preach here, but Viktor Frankl has a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And I mean, listen, like you never had a time in history where people in the Holocaust were, I mean, in those circumstances where everything was stripped away from them. And that's the kicker. Like, do you know who you are when everything gets stripped away from you, which is what an acting career will for the most part present to you, in the sense that it will take away your dignity, like, you know, your life and your hands and your keeping the lights on are usually in the hands of other people. You know, I'm not saying that as a victim mindset, but you got to think about it practically, right? Like if you are just reliant on that, there is a part of the puzzle where, you know, and that's, I changed that script. The question is, how do you as an artist take your power back? And for me, taking my power back is, instead of waiting for an award or a job, for most of us, I mean, you know, I'm not going to lie. Of course, I'm happier when I'm working, of course. But the thing is, if I'm going to like put my life on a roller coaster and peg it to that thing where I'm only happy and worthy, quote unquote, as a human being when I'm working or when I get an award or when something fancy happens, what kind of a life is that? Because then you're gambling with your life. And I think people, and especially artists, need to wake up, take your power back as an artist, instead of us putting our currency in producers or studios or in this person that said he's going to do something. And I think that's where a lot of people get hurt in the industries, because they're focusing on all this other nonsense, like the networking, and this one's going to do something for me. And
exactly.
Trust me, I don't want to say that that's not part of it. But what I will say is, you know, focus on you, focus on being the best human being that you can be, and derive your sense of happiness from something else other than acting. Then the games begin. Then we're talking. Then from that place, if that's your main focus, everything else becomes a bonus. And I'm telling you, Karen, it's a big thing, right? Because if you're auditioning from a place of desperation, you can smell it. I mean, I produce as well.
100%. It's like anything, even if you know, dealing with clients or you're dealing with that, like people, as you say, can pick up on the lack or the desperation. So 100%.
And it's a different energy. And for me, that's fear. It's being driven by fear. It's like, I need, I want, I must, you have to. Versus, wait a minute, I don't need, I'm not in lack, I'm already full, but I have this to give. Way different energy, way different approach to life in general. So, and this is very tough because, you know, and I think we'll get into this in the next section, but I'd love to chat about mental health. But for me, in a nutshell, how have I sustained it? I take care of me, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Like, take care of that guy, take care of the being, make sure the guy's got a roof over his head. When I talk about the guy, I'm talking about like little me, right? Like taking care of your inner child and taking care of yourself. Make sure you're taking care of yourself first and foremost. If you're not getting that right, you can't give your best on the field. And by the time, you know, you get to a place like Hollywood, you want to be able to at least have a shot at the field without any distractions. So for me, to answer your question long and short, your pre-game and your preparation before such a move is everything. And I think it applies to life. It's not just to our industry. It's like when you take a shot at something that you're super passionate about, that's your lifelong dream, set yourself up for success by planning and preparing, that by the time you get your opportunity, and you know, life is beautiful that way. We all do get opportunity. And if we messed up, that's okay. You get another shot and another shot. Just get back on the thing. There is no such thing as failure. There are only lessons. I think if you're doing that and approaching life like that, listen, man, then you're in business.
100%. So what would you say some of your biggest lessons and learnings have been within your career?
Sure.
And you probably had multiple, but like what really stands out?
I'll break it down. I'll break it down. I think this is a good one, and this will also link in with you know, what advice I have for aspiring actors. The biggest thing is, and this is and this is all like predicated upon the fact that you really know who you are and what you want. And I mean it when I say that, hey, like how many of us really write that down and ask, who am I, man? Who the heck am I? And what do I want in this life? You know, like to actually physically go and do that, not like a vague, airy fairy, kind of this. I'm talking about defining that for yourself, because the problem is that there are many opportunities that come your way. But anyways, to get back to that, have you defined who you are? And are the lessons based on that? Once you've ticked that box and you really know what you want to give in this world and who you are and how you want to enjoy your life, I'd say the biggest lessons are, number one, make it about the work. I'm going to say that again.
Yes.
Make it about the work. I'm going to say it one more time. You really you think you understand this, but you don't, because I'm
Yeah.
talking to myself right here, right?
Yeah.
Make it about the work. What am I
Yeah.
saying in a sentence like that? What I'm saying is make it about the craft of acting. Make it about
Yes.
your skill set as a performer. Make it about the things that you have control over. Because I hate to break it to you, there's so many, and trust me, I'm a producer as well. So I know the role does not always go to the most
No.
talented person or to the best audition. There are a million things. And sadly, we sit there as actors and, you eat a tub of ice cream and you cry and you get up again the next
Yes.
day. But the thing is exactly this, is make it about the work. Make it about the things that no one can take away from you as a person and as a performer. What does that mean? For me, that means the craft of acting. Make it about the craft of acting, because what you're going to start thinking after a while, you're going to start looking at your colleagues and people and their careers, and you're going to be like, no, man, what did he do? Who's he connected to? What's going on? Who's his agent? Who's his manager? What's happening there? What's happening there? And then you start going down this rabbit hole of, yeah, but he's got this and that. And you know what? It's like anything in life. People want to make excuses because they're too afraid to actually do the work themselves. So my
Yes.
suggestion is do the work, be the best you that you can be, and everything becomes a bonus. And I got to tell you, man, so many people have asked me, and I also try and look at wait a minute, did this gig lead to this gig? I'm telling you, it didn't. Every time I get an opportunity to audition, and sometimes it does, there is an accumulation of career things, and people, in my case, I'm very grateful. People bring me back a second or a third time. I'm so thankful. I don't know what I would have to do, because I mean, I think like most actors, auditions aren't the most favorite thing in the world. And for the most part, that is your job. Your job is to
Yes.
audition. And you're very grateful when you get to work, but it's the getting of the work. And that's what you got to figure out, buddy.
Yeah,
And
that's
trust
the
me,
hardest part.
that's the hardest job, to
Yeah.
get the work. So if I were
And
to
then still to maintain that once you get the job, because that's
oh,
also the other that's
that's the
part
other thing.
two, right?
100%. And that's what I'm saying, a sustainable career, not an acting job. And that's the thing. People fixate on that. And sure, some people in the short term get ahead by doing whatever shortcuts they do. But the thing is, even if you did whatever to get your opportunity, the question is, can you deliver once you get the opportunity? And as you so rightfully said, Karen, can you sustain opportunity after? So that's what I'm saying. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said. Make it about the work. And the work is all the things that you can control, all the things that no one can take from you, that even if you didn't get that job, you still got the skill set to come ready for the next one and the next one. And, this very lesson I had to learn last year, I was working on a very, very big Hollywood movie, one of the biggest movies shot in the world last year. And so grateful for that opportunity. But I was coming towards the end of my time on that movie, and another opportunity came by. And Karen, this was nuts, because the other opportunity, I'd worked 4 months just to get to the point where they offered me the job, and I got the offer. And the worst was, I wish I never saw what I was going to earn, because it was nuts, because it was 8 guaranteed episodes on a big network plus another season renewal. And for 48 hours, I was the happiest man on earth, because it was coming to the end of this other big movie I was working on. And 48 hours, they came back to me and said, listen, we've got a problem. I'm like, well, what do you mean? You know what I mean? The offer was made, like it's guaranteed. And to cut a long sob story short that nobody will care about, but it was a big lesson for me again to get back to what I'm telling you, is that they were not willing to budge for me for 5 days, right? For only 5 days of overlap, right? Out of what would be a 4.5 month shooting period. Nobody was willing to fight for me to make that work. And that broke my heart. So in those moments, I literally had to dig deep, because I was out here. And I remember being on set. And the thing is, I didn't want to be sad on that set. That was literally one of the biggest sets in the world, and my biggest to date. And I had everything, and I was super grateful, but I couldn't believe that, sometimes things don't always work out. But it's in those moments that I was like, you know what? Okay, so I'm not getting the champagne bottle popping moment. That's okay. What I'm proud of is it took me 4 months to get to that point. I proved myself as a performer to a big network, as an American character with a story arc. So I have a choice now. Either I'm going to let this thing bug me for the end of days and make that my sob story, or in this moment, and I did, and it was beautiful. There came a day where I was like, okay, today's the day I decide. I'm going to give myself this day to be upset and frustrated. and let it go. And I took myself to dinner that night and I said, hey, buddy, listen, sometimes that's what you got to do. You know, I believe in this, right? Like, I was like, you know what? I'm proud of the process. I'm proud that you fought to the very end, because at that point, when the schedule doesn't work out, that's not your fault as the actor. Those are factors, once again, out of your
Yes,
control. So what I
exactly.
had to do was I had to get back to making it about the work. No one can take my work ethic away from me.
No,
No one can take the way that I approach a role away from me. No one can. I'm the only one that can shoot myself in the foot at that point. So I had to walk away from that, trusting that I don't know the future. I don't know why I wasn't supposed to be on that show. But that's another thing that I believe. Make it about the work and trust that the things that are meant for you will come to you. There is
Yes,
something about that, believing in that. So that's another
yes,
big lesson is there are going to be many good opportunities. There are going to be many opportunities that come to your path that look great. And sometimes it doesn't make sense with your mind why a thing didn't work out. But you've got to trust. I think it was Steve Jobs as well. He says, you know, trust that the dots will connect. You know,
yeah. Even
trust
when
that
you
in
don't
hindsight,
understand it at the time.
when you don't get it, when you
Yeah.
don't get it, and I've seen that in my life, Karen, time and time again, is that, you know, and it's in the movies too, right? At the end of the second act, all hope is lost. It's literally like a great epic story, right? Seemingly all hope is lost. But that's my thing, is like, if you know who you are, make it about the work, and make it about the factors in your life that you can control, and you believe that what is meant to be for you will be, nothing can stop you, man. You become freaking powerful. You don't become a victim. You don't become a victim to the things that didn't happen, should have happened, would have. I'm telling you, I hate it too, man. But the fact is, life owes us nothing. The fact is, life can be brutal at times. It will take your loved ones away from you without being prepared from it. And that's just life, right?
Yeah.
Life owes us nothing. But if you can believe that the things that are meant for you will come your way, and you do trust that everything will work out, when you live from that place, it's amazing what happens, Karen. When you
Yeah.
dare to dream, when you work at your dream every day, when you don't always understand something, but you flip and run into the dark and towards uncertainty and eat buckets of rejection and still keep going.
Yeah,
If you can do that
exactly.
thing,
That's where resilience comes in, right?
that's
That's
it.
like,
That's
yeah,
it.
and you have to, like you say, you have to dig really deep.
Yeah, I
So,
have to dig deep in those ones because it's unfair. You
yeah.
know, like it's terrible because, you know, to this day, I don't know if people actually did even try and spend 30 minutes at the office to just make a schedule change. But they were like, nah, too much effort. Boom.
Yeah.
They couldn't care.
No.
And I'm just like, you know, you can't kill yourself about something that you don't know about, right? And you can't
No.
kill yourself about why you didn't get the job. And it's funny how it works. Like, you just got to, and this is the thing, you've got to dust your shoes off and keep moving, guys. Keep moving. Like, that's been the case for me. Is like, I'm not even touching on what I've been through in my life. I've been through crazy things that very few people in my life know about. Like,
Yeah.
and that's it. You know, we judge people and we think this and that, but everyone has a story to tell. So make it about the work.
Absolutely.
Trust that things will work out in the jobs that are meant for you. Are that. And another thing I want to tell you, man, is please, this is one of the toughest lessons, especially when you're a young actor. And also, like, this also links in with like Me Too and all of that. It's a very thing, like the fact that Me Too was such a big movement and is such a reality in our lives is the very thing that actors and actresses become so desperate for the job. And what happens is you put your power in people who you think are going to open the doors to the kingdom for you. And hear me when I say this. If you can take the power away by not putting your hope and trust in people, we're all fallible, guys. And trust me, like, again, there are factors out of your control. But as a young actor and as a young performer, my gosh, man, how many times was my heart broken about people who would just talk and it looks legit and sounds legit and smells legit, but it isn't. Take that away. Like, you know what I'm saying, in the sense that
Yeah.
waiting for people to deliver on what they say they're going to do, you're going to have a very difficult career as an actor. Again, bring it back to making it about the work. And if people do deliver on what they say they're going to do, be pleasantly surprised. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying be cynical.
Yeah,
What
but I
I'm
mean,
saying here,
it's about actually just being consciously aware of what's going on.
aware,
Yeah,
that's
and not
hardcore.
allowing exploitation of people's power and
That's it.
position.
That's what
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
I know I can speak from my own
Yes,
experience, but that's a story
yes.
for another day.
No,
So,
sure. But it's a reality. Yeah.
so you have obviously 80 international screen acting credits to your name, which is obviously a
Thank
massive
you.
accomplishment, making you officially South Africa's most internationally credited actor. So
In my
when you
category,
reflect,
yes, in my
yeah,
category, yeah.
yeah. So
Mhm.
when you reflect on this and all you have accomplished, what goes through your mind? And do you ever think or believe you would be where you are today? And can you share with us more about this and your thoughts around
Sure
this?
thing. Hey, thanks for that. And yes, I'm very grateful. It's humbling to hear that, because if people knew where I came from, right? If people know, coming from a broken home, starting from scratch, like actually, statistically, the kind of circumstances where I shouldn't have a shot, according to psychologists and statistics, that is beautiful to hear. And I'll say it's a very simple thing. I'm grateful that there is something powerful in this life to pursue your dreams. I take that very seriously.
Yes.
Of course, I have regrets. Of course, I'm not perfect. But one thing I'm grateful for is that one day on my deathbed, I am not going to have I'm not going to suffer from the pain of regret of not following my dreams.
Mm,
And for me, anytime I get feisty and battle and try and prove my worth, or try and like bang on my chest for like, grateful to have done this and that, it comes from a place of love, in the sense that
mm,
I protect my dream more than anything else, because life is so precious, guys. Like,
mm,
life is too short. So for me, when I think back over that, it's great to kind of have all the naughty badges. But for me, what I'm most proud of is just the journey, just the daringness to dream. And again, it's a campaign. I could never have done it without people and friends along the way who encouraged me to keep fighting, to not quit, to learn what it means to take a punch and to keep going. So for me, I protect my heart, man, whatever that
mm.
means to you, but the
Yes.
protecting of the heart. And you know what the crazy thing is? It's so interesting now in my life and in my career, where people are crawling out of the woodwork that back then were the very ones that said, you're not this enough and you're not that
Oh,
enough.
yeah, it's always,
Yeah, it's
it's
hey, and I
always
just
the
smile.
way.
It's
Yeah.
crazy, eh? It's crazy. And then all of a sudden you're best chummy, right? Like then they're
Yeah,
your
and then
best
suddenly
buddy.
they're like, "Oh, I know this person," and
Exactly.
and then it's like, "Oh,
Hmm.
they want to pull favors or ask for money
100%.
or."
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And
Yeah.
I smile, man, because it's like, it's very tough when the very people that you love that are in your circle don't even see you for what you are. And of course,
No.
like everyone has this idea when they hear actor schmactor, stand in line, kid,
Yeah,
and no,
exactly.
no,
I mean,
that's so nuts.
yeah.
But if you can do that, the biggest thing that I'm proud of is just holding that. It's so gentle, but it's the fiercest thing. And who is it that said it? But someone once said, you've got to have the hide of a rhino and the soul of a rose. And
Yeah,
that's a beautiful thing,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
Because there are many opportunities to get bummed, and be careful who you surround yourself with in the industry. We can
Mm,
we can kind of spur each other on, where you get into that negative mindset where they're groups of people that get into that thing. Well, like the world owes us this and that didn't work out. And trust me, you're probably justified in what you're saying, in the sense that that
mm,
one did you in and she did you in and that thing didn't
mm.
do it. And only if, and again, get rid of the woulda, shoulda, couldas. That's unfortunately life. I had to learn that lesson hard in my life as well. It's like, unfortunately, life is not Disneyland. It's a great
No,
idea, and I love Disneyland. I love it. It's
it's
like,
not
again, the
rainbows
happiest
and it
place on
ain't
earth.
unicorns.
It's not all the time, but that's what makes your work so beautiful, because you
Yeah.
will encounter and have moments where it is like Disney,
Yeah.
and they you cherish that like like a fresh piece of fruit when you've been in the desert for 40 years.
Mm.
Like it just tastes so much sweeter, and it's worth it, guys. It is. And let me take it from me, it's worth doing things the right way. It's
Yes.
worth waiting for what you want. It's worth taking the longer path
Mm.
sometimes, because by the time you get there, you are a heck of a lot stronger, your character's in place, and you'll be able to handle what life gives you. So I
Mm.
don't know if I've answered the question
No,
there,
you
but I'm
have. I mean,
humbled. Yeah.
that's perfect. I mean, I want
Mm,
to kind of shift because obviously you did touch on it
mm,
earlier, was around the pandemic. So
yeah.
how did this impact you professionally and personally, and how did this
Hmm.
impact and change the film and entertainment industry, as so many are
Mm.
still recovering from the pandemic
Oh.
hangover? And what are
Mm,
some of the significant changes you have noticed in the industry? And can you
mhm.
divulge from your perspective?
Sure thing. Thank you for that. Listen, great question. And first of all, from my side, I don't mean to be cheesy or say anything, but to everyone listening, because this comes from a really raw place. Because
Mm,
I'll try and share as many details as I can without inflicting on anybody. But first of all, from my side to you, just to hear this voice and hear this thing, I am so sorry for what's happened to all of you. I'm so sorry for what you've been through. And I want you to hear that. Like, I am so incredibly sorry for what you've lost, for what you've gone through, for the trauma that you've been on so many levels. And, obviously the pandemic, it's so true what someone once said, right? Like, we in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat.
No,
like, heck of a
definitely not.
difference.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot say we were in the same boat. Like, we were
Mm.
all hit deeply and differently. And in my case, I'm not lying when I say to you that I was stripped of everything. I just moved over here for the purposes of acting. And on the personal front, and it wasn't even because of COVID, it was just like life and circumstances, but losing my closest people in my life, except for my mother, all back to back. And I'm talking young and old. Like, it didn't matter. Like, lost my godson, lost one of my best friends, lost 7 family members, like the people who were instrumental in spurring me on to pursue this dream. All for no better reason. Like, grief and death just came like an onslaught. And the worst is that not only was I surrounded by nobody, I was by myself. It was just, I do have family here and there as well, obviously in the US, but it was a lonely journey, like I had to take those shots head on. And then again, the very thing that I came here to do wasn't being done because the sandbox was closed because, like the rest of the world, we all had to freaking stay home and watch Tiger King and everything,
and figure out how to
that.
generate revenue or money just to survive.
Nuts.
Yeah.
100% nuts. And isn't it ironic that the very thing that people, needed in that time was content and movies and stories? But, if I hadn't saved from, money in 2018 and 2019, I don't know what I would have done. Like, it would have been game over for me. I'm being brutally honest. It would have been game over if I hadn't come over prepared for an absolute, global disaster and global pandemic, which was COVID. But, in many ways, and I've always been a fighter, but in many ways, something happened during COVID where it was a beautiful thing where, you get to that point where you are rock bottom because the level of uncertainty that you face and not knowing where provision is going to come from is so high that you are forced, like, with your back against the wall more than ever before. And what's beautiful in that moment is you've got 2 choices. Either you call it quits and you live in fear until you can't anymore, or you decide to start from scratch and live in the sense of breaking it down to the bare bones basics of what matters in this life. Beautiful thing. So for me, it was the craziest fire in my life, financially, emotionally, in my personal life. The craziest time and I wish there was something major in my life as well that happened that unfortunately I can't share yet, but I had a big revelation discovery about my birth and my upbringing. And if I hadn't gone through that process, like, I don't think I'd be, and for anyone in any walk of life right now, like, what a transition. But I'm grateful that I chose to not run from it, but to run towards it and eradicate the BS with myself, eradicate the mindsets that were limiting, and to start over. And I tell you guys, like, once you become dangerous once you start knowing who the heck you are and what
big
matters.
time.
That's beautiful. It's a
Because
beautiful thing.
you learn to stand up for yourself. You learn
100%.
to, you learn a
learn
lot
to-
of things where, and I'm not saying it defines you as being a nasty person, but I think it also helps you to set boundaries with
Big time.
people.
Big
So,
time.
yeah, I think
Yes.
there's so many lessons from that situation.
But also the power of community, because
Yes,
man,
big
without just
time.
making about me, walking that road with my friends who also lost everything from all walks of life, all over the world, and being close like that. I mean, I had some phone calls. It was precious, man. Where else did we have time? Like, I had some friends that I had like 3-hour Zooms with and calls with. We went all the way back to like primary school and high school and just spoke about life and that kind of connection. And I'm saying it's like, that was a beautiful transition. And again, that's when everything gets taken away from you. How do you respond? And the beautiful thing is, it's okay if initially you freaked out and you don't even know where to begin. But man, like, take a chance on yourself. And I just want to say as well, like, we are stronger than we think, to think of what we overcome. And the beautiful thing is the pandemic, as long as it's freaking been, it's not going to last forever. And we're already kind of like moving out of it. And what a great life lesson for all of us, right? Is that it
Mm.
doesn't always stay winter. It's never always going to stay
Yeah,
dark. And
everything, there's always a change, even though when you're in it, you think, is this ever going to end? But
no,
somehow it always shifts.
it's always shift. So that's it. Like, if anything, that nugget of it, if you're listening and you're hearing this today, know that you have what it takes. Like,
Mm.
know that you are stronger than you think. And it's as simple as sometimes you're only going to have the strength to wake up. And just waking up, the act of like waking up and even standing for the day and just like seeing through another day, like, even that's enough. Know that that's a victory, and if you go to
Yes.
break it down, that's the thing. It's like, everyone says, work hard at all of this. No, no, no. Like, do the best you can with what you have where you are. And some days that's going to mean chilling on the couch and watching TV just so that you're not like heartbroken. And that's okay. And the next
Mm.
day you get up and you do what you can. It's like we gotta break it down. You've got to know when to run and you've got to know when to slow down. You've got to know when
Yes.
to hustle, and you've got to know when you've got to trust that the things are going to come your way. And I think the pandemic was really good. And for those of us who didn't maybe wield all the things and were just trying to survive, that's okay. Well done for making it. Yeah, like, well done, like, for all of us. Isn't that crazy, right? Like, for all of us, we've got 100% track record of making
Mm.
it through all the
Mm.
bad things that were meant to destroy us. In my case as well, it looked seemingly for a long time that was game over for me, that my mission in America was game over because of factors
Yeah.
out of my
But it
control.
was
But
actually just the beginning.
just the beginning. And
Yeah.
it unlocked something in me. It unlocked my desire for truth. It unlocked my desire for my voice in terms of
Mm.
who the heck I am. It
Mm.
also like settled that question in myself, is like, when the rug gets stripped from under me, I can honestly say, I know that I can take a punch, man. Oh my gosh.
Mm.
Like, I can take knocks, and everything that I have now, I don't take for granted. I really don't, man. I cherish
Yeah.
it. I cherish
Yeah.
every second with a close friend or a loved one or a family member. Every day that I'm on set, oh my word. And it's so interesting
Mm.
to see my work. Thankfully too, though, I mean, like, it wasn't that crazy long for me, but getting back to work again, like, it's amazing that I can even tell in the stuff that hasn't even released yet, but the growth of my pre-pandemic work to now, because as a
Oh,
human
big
being, I've grown so
time.
much.
Big
And I'm
time.
now tapping into things like, I feel
Mm.
like I'm only really getting started.
Yeah.
And may that be the case for you, to the listeners, right?
Mm.
Like, this is life. Like, we got to like actually make peace with the fact that good things are going to happen and bad things are going to happen. You have to
Mm.
take both the good with the bad. That's just life, and realizing that. And once you can like calm down with that statement and that reality, that's when life becomes exciting, right? That's when it gets back to being, hey, it's a journey. I don't know what's
Yeah.
coming around the corner, but if you can believe in yourself enough to know that, listen, whatever comes, I'm going to face it. And
Yes.
I also had to realize as well, I've got people who care about me more than I even imagined. And sometimes
Yeah,
we've got to
and
reach
that
out to that
also,
community.
that exactly, and that also shows like you see like who really steps up in
Mm,
those times and who
mm,
doesn't.
mm-hmm.
And
And
you
sometimes you
know,
just need someone to listen, right?
yeah,
Sometimes that's
exactly.
all you need. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I want
Yeah.
to touch on the awards that you've won. You've obviously won some awards and attended some
Mhm.
of the biggest award ceremonies from the Oscars to the Grammys. So obviously congratulations to that. So can you
Thank you.
share with us your insight into these experiences, and when attending your first ever big award ceremony, what was that like for you? Was it surreal?
Ah,
Like,
it is, yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. Like, I feel like I'm a 6-year-old every day, like when I even get to go on a movie set. And there
yeah.
is something nuts about being so close to it. And I am very grateful because last year I was inducted into the Academy. I'm an official, Academy member. So I actually
That's
vote for the Emmy.
amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. And that was very a special thing because now it's like, you're pinching yourself all the time and you're being, surrounded by the people that you grew up freaking like watching and kind of fanboying over. It's kind of crazy. But again, the best part of the experience for me is again appreciating the journey, because like it or not, everyone is just a young boy and girl trying to live out their dream. It's
Mm.
it's just that. It doesn't matter how old you become or what level of your career, everyone's just trying to enjoy this magical thing, which is making movies or whatever your vocation is, or whatever you're trying to do with your life in terms of your passion.
Mm.
But it has been surreal. And I'm learning that people are people. And
Mm.
and also I'm learning that like everyone's got a story to tell, man. You know, you judge quickly and you think, you know, this is this and that, but everyone has sacrificed a lot. And if anything, like being so close to it and, you know, getting to experience it, and thankfully every now and then, you know, for me, it's not about the awards, it's who you become. This is the thing. It's not about that trophy, guys. It's about who we become in the process of pursuing that thing, right? Because you're never
Yes.
going to attain it. You're never going to attain perfection, you know. And I also
No.
love what like Matt Damon said once, you know, he says the best thing that ever happened to him was, you know, they won the Oscars so young, you know, him and Ben, for the writing of
Yeah, Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting. And he says he remembers seeing that Oscar on the thing at night, and he was like, thank God, like this is out of the way. That, like, you know what I mean? And also realizing, but
Yeah.
he was realizing the fact that Jim Carrey and everyone says it as well. And that's the thing, you know, one really starts to realize is it's not about that thing. You know,
No.
like beyond whatever that represents to you, right? And again, what I said right in the beginning of this podcast was make it about the work and know who you are. Derive your sense of happiness from something other than the external, right? And that's exactly what these guys are all realizing is, you know, like Jim Carrey says as well, he wishes everyone could be famous for a day and see what it's like, because what you realize and what I'm also experiencing is these people are still people. You know, a lot of them are very lonely, you know, and I think the thing is, I know this sounds contradictory, right? Because, you know, award ceremonies are special and it is an honor, of course. I'm not taking that away, you know, but what's beautiful for me is the ones who truly win and are the winners. They didn't just make it about the trophy. For them, it was about the process and who they became. And
Yes.
that's what's special for me to see is, if anything, it should be encouragement. Like so many people, so many of us who've lost people along the way in our lives. For me, the gift in death is to what? To live more, to live more intentionally, to live harder, laugh harder, to stop your nonsense and being scared to jump into the ocean and swim. Like that's the gift for me. And, you know, in these ceremonies as well, you can tell it's a lifelong campaign for a lot of these people, and giving honor to the people along the way. Because as much as I'd like to claim, you know, the times that I've won or being in Hollywood right now, there've been many people in my circle who've encouraged me along the way or helped me in their particular way, whatever that may be. You know, it's a group, it's a team effort. And, you know, we all have those angels in our lives that, you know, have spurred us on. You know, and sometimes there are moments where all you have is yourself and you've got to find that strength deep within, you know, but that's it. You got to trust that you do the best you can. You got to trust that, you know, things will work out for you. And yeah, that's kind of always been my approach.
So you've also featured both in TV series and big feature films. So can you share with us in brief the difference between the two different processes? And did you find it a big transition from TV to big screen films?
Sure. Yes, I'm very grateful to have worked in many different mediums. You know, I don't have that much theater experience, but I respect theater. I really do. For me, theater is the purest form of an actor's medium, you know, where I feel directing is very much the director's medium, or like film is the director's medium, and television is definitely, well, it depends what level, you know, TV is really transformed. But, you know, your stock standard like daytime TV is like the producer's medium, where it's just like, let's get the content out there.
Yes.
So for me, I think everyone's got their own special way and special craft. And like, I take my hat off to like soapy actors as well, you know, in the sense that that is a very unique craft. And, you know, I had a stab at it, but it's not my medium. Like for me, I'm most suited for like film, where, you know, it's more subtle and, you know, internal, and not always, but, you know, for me, the thing is, and they always say, you know, my approach has always been just be truthful no matter what, and let the technical team decide how to do it. Because I think, you know, if, and obviously, you know, theater is a lot about projection and stuff. So I did learn to kind of, you know, I remember like my first ever job, I was way too loud. I really was. And you know, I forgot that there's a microphone right here. Like, it was hilarious. But like, all I needed to do was hear that thing once. I only needed to learn that lesson once. Because I was so loud on my first ever TV job. I was playing a detective and a police officer, but I was like literally shouting, but forgetting that, hey, my dudes can hear me and I've got a mic, you know. So you got to trust your technical team. So I would say the big thing for me is I try and be as truthful no matter what I'm doing. Obviously, there are things where there's tone and pace, and, getting to do comedy now in America for the first time that I never thought I'd be able to do. Last year, I had a year where I had to do a lot more comedy, in terms of American
Yes.
comedy. My approach to that is still don't try and be funny, commit to the circumstances, and I think it's just raising the stakes. I think comedy, it becomes just that, it does become life and death, and there's the funniness in it. But, I'm so grateful, before I fell into that trap, just commit to for me, there's a very simple definition of acting, easier said than done. But I love the definition of acting where it says that you live truthfully under imaginary circumstances. That's a
Yes.
hectically loaded sentence.
Yeah.
To live means to be, it means to do, to live, be alive, be real, but to live truthfully under imaginary circumstances, and
Yes.
that's the craziest art. It's the easiest, but the toughest, shout out Meryl and Daniel Day-Lewis. Like there's
Yes.
just so much life and truth and movement. And, it's just like, that's what I pursue. And there's never a thing of perfection. And, as a lot of incredible theater actors and any actors of any kind will tell you, it's the pursuit thereof. You never get to do the same thing twice. So for me, what I've learned to do is, it is a twofold process for me to break it down simply. I do like to do homework. I do like to understand. And for me, it's so important. Like I need to understand what the heck I'm talking about. Like if
Yes.
I can't understand it, how the heck am I supposed to think my audience should understand it?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
also, until I'm there, I always sound like an actor until it's really like in my gut. And I'm like, what the hell am I talking about? Or like, what is the scene about? Like I need to feel that and see it. And I did fall into the trap earlier in my career where, you try and say it a certain way and stuff, but now I'm learning highball. It's like life, eh? It's like life now. It's like, we don't like pre-plan how we say something. As long as I understand what, I want to give or get from the scene, depending on what the circumstances are. It's all about the listening of my scene partner or the world and environment around me, and responding to that as truthfully as I possibly can. So that's why I say, focus on yourself as a being. If you don't have that, if you can't listen and be still in your own life, how the heck are you supposed to like bring that to screen? So that's the thing. It's like, how do you give something you don't have? And that's what I say, make the focus on growing as the best human being that you can be, and everything else is an outflow. That's kind of broad strokes is my transition from TV to film. I kind of keep it the same. I do look at tone and style, but I would say the biggest takeaway for that question is remain truthful no matter what the medium. Even in life, we say sometimes, oh, that's too big or whatever. Trust me, I live in America. I see things like sometimes truth and also from my own life in terms of like the things I've gone through. Truth is stranger than fiction, and people do get big and do get nuts. And I just keep it to truth, not how big or how small or how this or how that. Truth all the way, and that'll take care of itself naturally, on screen.
Yes. So I want to talk about mental health, and especially pre and post pandemic. And I know you have touched on this a little bit.
Sure.
So what are some of the things that were amplified for you? And can you share with us what you did to keep yourself grounded in such a highly demanding career? And can you give us any examples?
Sure thing. Absolutely. Yeah. For me, the broad strokes would be that I went back to, I think you've often heard in this podcast until now that I refer to like my younger self and that kind of thing. But the pandemic really did do a number on me in the sense that I had to ask myself again, like, dude, what do I enjoy? What are those activities or things that actually give me energy? And trust me, I do get energy from making movies, but you also spend a lot of energy when you go through a production. You're giving so much of yourself. So I really had to be like, wait a minute, have I got an old idea of the things that I used to like when I was a kid? What of those things do I like? What don't I like? And then I just started playing instead of like overthinking it. I was just like, what do I naturally like to spend time doing? And that for me is intricately connected to your mental health. Isn't it amazing when you go for a hike or whatever it is for you, or a bike ride, or just getting to the gym for a little bit, or like exercising, just that life seems like doable. And, it's when it becomes too like crazy that we kind of like throw all our toys out of the cot. So for me, how to get back to basics, I will be very specific with you that my mornings are a very important time for me. Before the world starts like coming for me, and, being on 2 different time zones with everyone wanting to know what's up around the clock, that gets tough. But my mornings are very important for me to in an ideal world, I don't get this right consistently because, obviously schedules of movies and there's a lot of travel and often in a hotel or wherever that may be. But wherever I am in the world, I try and have a morning where my mornings are calm. And I use that time to kind of like either wake up gently, but to think intentionally. And gratitude became a very important thing during the pandemic for me, is to get back to, wait a minute, like obviously the obvious is the obvious. But what am I grateful for today? You know what? I'm grateful I'm still able to pay rent. I'm grateful that it's a beautiful day. It sounds like stupid things, but trust me, like spending a few minutes starting your day from a place of gratitude versus, and try me on this. I double doggy dare you to experiment with this, is try having a day where you start with the things that you're grateful for. And sometimes for some of us, it's writing it out. For some of us, it's like walking and thinking about it. I kind of like writing it out, and just ask yourself 3 simple things. What are 3 things that I'm grateful for that either happened the day before or that I'm grateful for this morning? And just a simple act of that, starting your day with that, already sets the mood and tone for something else, and mental health as well. There's always like a million things to do, but like I try and do like the one big thing that I have capacity for today. You can't do it all. And to try and determine for myself, according to your desires and your dreams and your standard or your matrix that you judging the world with, I try and think about what is the main priority for today. After I've done gratitude, after I've, try to be like, hey, I'm here, wake up. I do believe in the, practicing the art of being present. So crucial. If you're an actor, you have to learn how to listen. And sometimes you got to start by learning to listen to yourself when there is no stimulus. So for me, if I can win my morning, I usually do win my day. It sounds very cheesy, but trust me, I'm a different human being when I do that. Like it just is. Because what happens is, what I'm doing in that time is I'm honoring myself. And I know that what I need before I come out into the world and give or whatever that may be, this is where Greg ends and this is where my world begins. And the worst thing is this little guy. This little guy you need to manage. And as you can see right now, they're wonderful apps that allow you to put it onto do not disturb, where you can select emergency people in the case of an emergency. And I do that now. By the time it hits, well, not every day, but I try. Like on a good day, I'm putting this phone on do not disturb by 11 p.m. and it stays off until like at least 7 a.m. where I get back to this phone on my terms, not the other way around. Because if you're constantly going to be a ping pong ball
you
with
use
every
the
single
tool
thing,
and you're not used by the tool.
correct, exactly. So for me, it's very simple. I win my morning. I think about where I'm going. I do the best I can for that day by determining my priority. And other than that, I'm making it simple. I'm not overcooking it. I'm just doing more things that I love. In my case, it's walks on the beach, which I'm grateful is close by. It's being on my bike. It's trying to have at least like one hike somewhere a week or every 2 weeks. I try and do group activities with friends. Sometimes you feel lonely at times and you need to speak to a friend or a loved one. Quality time as well, I've realized I value more than I think I do. And to get better at like looking at what are those activities that are actually just wasting your time that you need to just say no to. And then again, and I'm talking to myself here because I haven't completely done that even for this year, but I really getting back to defining right now where I'm at in my life at this place in this time. What do I want and what do I value? And what is the most important to me? And actually taking time to write that down and not just waiting once a year to do that, to regularly check in and be like, hey, how are we doing? I'm doing great in this area of my life and that. And that's it. It's simple little changes that compound. You can't do everything. And I think I try and focus on very few things, but I make sure I lay that brick correctly, that I never have to get back to that brick. And other than that, I'm trying to free myself up more, where it's not just about movies, it's about living my life. And again, simple life hack for me is spend more time doing things that you enjoy and that you love.
Absolutely. So having won multiple awards, do you believe that this opened up other career opportunities for you, or was that just the icing on the cake?
I do believe it's the icing on the cake. And again, it's just what the award represents, as we touched on earlier. I think again, it's just like, hey, buddy, you're on the right track. Keep enjoying the journey. I think those awards sometimes come at a nice time where you feel like despondent and you're not like working. They come as like nice reminders that you're not a crazy man. Like, you're doing something right. Like, but I don't make it, I don't sit down there polishing my awards, like every morning. I get on with the show. And I think that's exactly the thing is like, I will tell you this about me. For better or for worse, I always feel like I'm starting from scratch. You know, like I know that
Yeah,
sounds
because every
crazy. You know,
project's like a new birth
it's like
almost.
a new birth. So I don't try and like even use the things that I think worked. Obviously, I've got my process. I will say my audition process, I don't know how everyone does it, but for me, I had to like really change my
Yeah.
mindset towards auditions. Like I don't overthink it anymore. Like by the
Mm,
time I'm pressing record, I'm doing 3 takes and I'm walking away and I'm living my life because
mm.
it's
Yeah,
just
because
such a,
you can't, there's no such thing as perfection. I mean, it's like if
uh-uh.
it's right for you and
Yeah,
it comes off and they like what they see, then obviously they'll proceed to
exactly.
the next thing. But I guess
Yeah.
that's the gamble, right?
That's the gamble. But yeah, awards definitely are the icing on the cake. Grateful for it.
Mm,
But again, it's just a reminder of the journey, you know, and again,
yes.
you got to take the bad with the good.
So you've worked with some big names in Hollywood and on some very big productions. So can you
Mhm,
share with the audience a little more about these films and
mhm,
series and which were the most challenging and rewarding? And
mhm.
when working with some of the biggest Hollywood stars or celebrities for the first time, what was that experience like for you?
Sure. Yeah, I will try and watch myself that I don't break any NDAs for a lot of the things that are coming in. So what I will do is
Yeah, no,
I'll
that's why
just,
you
I'll
just
talk,
talk in
I,
general.
but I will talk about, you know, some specific stars here and there. But yeah, that process initially, as I briefly mentioned earlier, like it was a big mind shift for me initially, like being from South Africa, working in South Africa, and when a lot of these Hollywood projects came to South Africa initially, before me actually moving to Hollywood and working in America, I had to have that moment with myself where I was like, you know, it doesn't help that I become my own worst enemy, where I feel like I'm not worthy to be here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm good enough, and I had to have that moment with myself where you got to get to a point where you trust that, hey, if they booked you, buddy, and you're sitting in that trailer and you're on that set, bro,
Mm,
like stop doubting yourself. Just
mm,
step up to the opportunity. And even last year, like it takes me a long time, I do pretty much stay in my lane for the most part. But you know what? Last year, after a while working on one of the biggest movies in the world that was shot last year, after a few weeks of just dipping my toes and being safe, not doing bad work, I just started relaxing more and just started
mm.
like taking risks. And when I did that, like it's crazy what opened up. The director that I worked with is a big Hollywood heavyweight. Even he was just like, dude, whatever you're doing, just run. I built all of this for you. It was like a ginormous, enormous set that I can't wait to share with you guys. It's coming out at the end of the year. But like, I cannot tell you what it was like riding home from work after days like that on set, where it's like everything you ever wished for, like especially as a young boy, like
Amazing.
the biggest thing you get, it's like being in a freaking theme park and like the stuff, the
Mm,
work, the deal. And for me, it was just like, wow, giving yourself permission to play on one of the most expensive sets in the world was a big moment for me, like a homecoming, it felt so good. Like all the sacrifice after everything, pandemic and all that was a big thing. And obviously I'd worked with a lot of people along the way. But I will tell you this, what have I learned? I've learned that, again, celebrities are people, and often the greats are the most humble. Like that's been awesome for me. I can't say always.
no.
For the most part, like people are really, and yeah, I've gotten to work with incredible people along the way. It's interesting, even certain like big celebrities, that we see in the media, who they are when you're working with them as a colleague and as a person, so different sometimes to the public
Yeah,
persona. And then that
exactly.
blows my mind. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
business decision. I won't mention certain names. Maybe if I look at my IMDb, you'll deduce who it is. But certain people, it fascinates me that who they are in the public eye versus who they are as a person, sometimes two different people, and
Yeah.
it's almost like a business decision to have this public persona. Like it must be, because I'm like, I
Mm,
spent months with you and I
yes.
know you, but
And it
who's
was totally the
that?
polar opposite, right? So,
Totally,
yeah.
and maybe that's permission. People take on these personas. I know for me as well, like, I'm getting a lot of like baddies and villains, and a project that I'm about to start shooting next week
Mm.
is hardcore. It's just like, whoa, like I'm going to do that. So I've got to either find my alter ego, I've got to find people that I might know from my real life to channel, because it's
Yeah.
not easy. I've got to like get there, because that's the job, right? That's
Yeah.
what you got to do. But yeah, I've been very grateful. I've been grateful to do a lot of studio and network work, and I have an amazing year coming up in terms of releases. And again, I'm staying cautiously optimistic, because on
Yes.
paper, a thing always looks like it's going to be the most life-changing thing ever, but you never know. And again, I'm taking my own advice here. It's like, get back to the
Mm.
work, for better or for worse. You know, take
Yes.
those as little milestones, take those as little naughty badges for you on the inside to be like, you know what? I booked with that guy and so and so and so and so. And yeah, I've gotten to work with most of my acting heroes to date now, which is
That's
amazing. I've
amazing.
still got a couple, but life-changing opportunities, and grateful for, I've got about 7 or 8 releases coming out this year, you know,
Wow. That's
across
amazing,
the
Greg.
globe. I'm just so grateful. You know, I'm just working. And you know, the funny thing is like you did that some of this work like 2, 3 years ago, and it's only like coming out now, you know.
Now,
And
yeah.
so
It's a
it's like
long
it's weird
process. It's a long
because you're
process.
excited, you know, because the world hasn't seen it yet, but you like excited, you know what you've done and you know what's cooking in the oven. But
Yes.
it's always such a weird disconnect that, you know, you're living here doing the next thing and the next thing, but then you got to stop every now and then. It was like, oh, that comes out. And I would like to think that I get better at what I do as I go along. But people always kind of catching your work 2 years behind, if that makes sense. It's the
Yes.
weirdest sensation, but just grateful, man. I'm grateful to be working. I'm grateful that I get to do what I love. And yeah, we are.
Amazing. So that leads me to the last question, which is what are the 3 key pieces of advice you would give to other aspiring actors who are looking to pursue a similar career? And what legacy would you like to leave, or how would you like to be remembered?
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, well, I'll start with the latter first and then get into the advice. How would I like to be remembered? One of the biggest things I would like to say is that I want to be remembered for actually really unashamedly following my dreams. You know, if people kind of look at where my life started and where I've come from, like it's a long shot, you know, it's like a long shot. So I want to be remembered for the guy who changed his stars by following his
Yes,
dreams.
amazing.
That's what I would like, you know, and that's why yeah, I'm just so grateful for the journey and all the people along the way that have encouraged me. And that's it. And that's what I'd like to leave as a legacy. I hope people know, if people were ever to regard my life, that there is power in choice. You
Yes,
can
definitely.
choose, no matter where you come from, how you're going to respond. And if you choose to be bold enough to dare to dream, choose, you know, every
Yes.
day we get a bunch of choices, and no one can do that for you, and you are justified in being angry and hurt by what's been done to you, but you still can choose your way out of there. So that's a big thing for me, is that if I think that's one of the biggest gifts we get in this beautiful thing called life, is the power to choose who we are, how we're going to respond, what we really want, and what we want to go for. So that's that on the legacy side. And that links into the advice that I would give, is that, man, number one, know who you are so that you can believe in yourself before someone else is going to believe in you. If there's anything, like that thing for me has been the biggest thing, because people don't know who the heck you are, and in many ways they don't care.
No,
You know,
exactly.
so you really got to figure out, like, and know that you have something to offer. Know how you're talented. Know what you have to offer. And that's it. Like, number one point of advice is know who you are so that you can truly believe in yourself, because no one's going to believe in you for you. You know, you've got to get that right. You don't even start playing this game before that starts. Make sure you get that, you know.
Yes.
And you know what I want to say? It's okay. I was very timid. I've gone through a lot to kind of build up confidence. You know, I was very timid, very fearful. Like, for most of my life, I was like, do I even have what it takes? Who the heck am I? But we got to stop that nonsense story with that inner critic and kick its ass and be like, you know what? I'm alive. I've been given this gift called life. I only have one of these. I'm going to live it. I'm going to live it to the full. And, you know, life doesn't owe me anything. But as a human being, I am worthy to experience all that life has to offer. And I might not be the most good looking or the most talented or the hardest working. That doesn't matter. I'm going to play my set of cards the best that I can. And again, I'll sound like a broken record. I'm going to do the best I can with what I have wherever I am. You know, whether I'm doing well, whether I'm doing badly, it doesn't matter. I'm always going to play my best hand. And some days that's going to mean just staying alive and just letting the sun go down and just holding tight. And that's a victory. So that's the first point. Second point, I would say, again, I said it earlier, but go and think about the sentence. Make it about what? Make it about the work. Make it about the work, and go and determine what the work is about. For me, the work represents the factors within your control, which is, you know, getting better, studying your craft, everything that you can control in terms of how you present yourself to the world. Don't worry about the industry politics. Don't worry about who did you in. Stop being so focused on what your buddy's doing and the jobs he's getting and why that your agent didn't get you in there. All of that will drive you nuts, dude. Like, why? Live a happy life.
That's a rabbit
Like, don't go
hole.
there.
Yeah, that's a
Oh
rabbit hole
my.
you don't want to go down.
You don't want to go down. I'm
Yeah.
not saying about being proactive in terms of reminding people that you're here and you like, the industry is a whole sort of thing. There is a little bit of networking. Trust me, like, I don't know. I don't think I've ever gotten a job from all these red carpet events. Trust me, it looks cool and it's great and people will get to know you. But the real thing is make it about the work, buddy. Make it
Yes.
about the work, what you can control. So that's my second point of advice. And finally, I would say keep reinventing yourself. Don't let the world
Yes.
put you in a box. Like,
Yeah.
you are not limited even by what you think you can do. Be open, be
Yeah.
curious, make life an adventure. Either this life is going to be this hardcore list of problems we need to solve 24/7 until the day you die, or life can be an adventure, man. So don't sweat the small stuff. Keep reinventing yourself. Stay curious, stay open.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Greg, for your time today. And hopefully we
Thank
can
you,
have you
Karen.
back in the future to see where you are in your journey. And if
Mm.
people would like to connect with you, what are the best platforms to do so?
Sure thing. Thanks for asking. And again, thanks so much for what you guys are doing with Talent Finders and what you do for so many, Karen. I had a great time chatting and thanks for the real talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say to stay connected, probably Instagram for now. Yo, I've got to up my game with social media, but yeah, I do dip my toes into Instagram every now and then, and that's just at Greg Kriek, which is Kriek, Greg, so Greg Kriek. And then for upcoming releases, I'd say IMDb. Is the industry standard, I guess. So Greg Kriek, IMDb, but Instagram for interaction. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much.